And welcome back to the CNC Auto Show. And we have with us Steve Reeves, who's a corporate pilot. He's with us to answer any questions someone might have, but also we'll be asking him a lot of questions because during the break, we were having a great time asking him a lot of questions before the show even started.
He might be out of answers.
Yeah, he may already be run out by now. Good morning, Steve.
Good morning, Aaron and John. How are y'all?
Morning.
And welcome to the CNC Auto Show.
Thank you.
And we appreciate you being here. And one of the things that we've been doing on the show, we've been spending some time with other forms of transportation. We generally talk about mostly cars and trucks. But we were looking at so many things people would ask us questions about when we were off.
Right.
And many times, and John Ryan rides ATVs all the time. He's got almost has monster trucks himself that he drives, and also boats and all the other things. And I was flying airplanes at one time.
We have to have those
things
so we stay in touch with the industries.
Yeah, exactly. and one of the things that I thought about is it might be a lot of fun to learn more about what other people do in other areas of transportation.
Yeah, of course.
And, of course, one huge area of transportation is flying.
It is, absolutely.
And so that's why we have Steve here, who is a corporate pilot. And my first question to Steve would be, what does a corporate pilot do?
Well, I work for a private company that basically owns the airplane, and, of course, they need to get around. That's if they can save time, they're saving money. So my job is to get them basically to places for meetings and things like that so they can get their work done, and it saves them a lot of time. I mean, it'd be ridiculous to have to fly all the way to Texas, go a meeting and drive back. That would just be
yeah, for sure.
That'd be just way out of line. So the airplane comes in really good for that. Kind of.
And that's one thing that I mentioned a long time ago. I think when I was talking about flying, I mentioned one time that people say you can't buy time. Well, I believe they're wrong.
You can, and the faster the airplane, the more time you can buy.
Yeah,
for sure.
And so many times, if you got several people in your organization that need to go somewhere, and for them
Very
all
much.
to travel in a commercial aircraft or to drive, especially. And it takes them a certain amount of time to get there, a certain amount of time in hotels, a certain amount of time to get back.
That's right.
They're probably already away from their families a good bit. Sometimes something like an airplane like this
they can take
just
their family
be
with them.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of times that's true, especially like vacation stuff.
Right.
Now, what type places do you normally fly to?
Well, we do military and government contracts, so I'm into military bases quite a bit. And my boss, since he owns the airplane, they do a lot of vacationing too. So we go to the Bahamas, different places. We're going to Salt Lake City next month for skiing. So it's like that. So it's kind of business and.
Now, what do you do? Let's say
it
that,
sounds like you're going too. So
yeah, I go, of course.
Well, that was one of the questions I had. Let's say that you go on a trip like that and you're flying the family somewhere, and especially a nice resort area. What do you do while you're waiting?
Well, pretty much anything I want to. We're going to Salt Lake City for 6 days, so I'll be able to, go and eat. I'll get, everything, all the expenses are paid for, so I can kind of pretty much do what I want to.
Yeah.
If I want to go to a show or go out or whatever, I can do that, no problem.
Yeah, and so normally you don't fly back. Normally you'll wait there with the airplane.
No, Salt Lake City is quite a long way out there, so it would be more cost efficient for me to stay.
Yeah. So you get to know a lot of people at the airports that you go to.
I know people all over the place that I recognize. We go into places all over Louisiana and Alabama, places like that. I walk up, they say, "Hey, Steve, how you doing today?" It's
just like home to you.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, you get to learn people and stuff.
When I was flying a lot, I would see a lot of the corporate pilots, and they would kind of sit around in their own group and talk about the different things that where they're going, what they're doing.
That's right. Well, my day consists of getting the people off the plane, getting them going, and then I'll go in, usually read the newspaper, and then I hate to say this but a lot of times I'll just take a nap, and then I'll wake up for lunch, and then I'll watch some TV, and then I will fly home. That's pretty much my day.
Steve, how did you get into flying?
Well, I was interested in flying ever since I was small. My daddy was a pilot, so it just came kind of came naturally for me. So I can't remember a time in my life where I wasn't interested in flying. So it's just kind of was inbred into
Born
me that
into
way.
you.
It was, it was.
Now, what type airplane do you fly now?
Well, we got a Beechcraft King Air 200, a B200, which is a twin turboprop corporate aircraft that carries 10 total. But we also have a smaller plane we use for shorter trips. It's a Cessna Skylane 182. We use that for some smaller, slower.
Well, how fast does this airplane go?
The King Air goes 270. Well, actually, we got new
Wow.
engines. It's faster. It's 292 knots, which works out to be around 350 miles an hour.
Wow.
So
That's moving.
we do
So
pretty good.
let's say if you were going from here to St. Simon's Island, how long would you?
It
That's
takes
up and
about
down.
about 35 minutes.
35
in the King
minutes to
Air.
be at
Yeah.
St. Simon.
By the time I get up level off, it's time to start down
Yeah.
Wow.
again. So
That's really cool.
Well, that is beautiful. And what is? Let's say that if you were going to a Midwest state, in other words, you'd have a fairly good distance. What type cruising altitude would you normally have?
I usually go up in the upper 20s. Usually is where we're at. We're certified to 35, but we're limited because we lack a piece of equipment. But we can. I usually go in the upper 20s most of the time. Yes,
In the upper 20.
for a trip like
So
that.
your aircraft has to be pressurized.
Yes, it is a pressurized airplane. In other words, you can breathe normally. There's oxygen actually manufactured to go in there from the engines, and they produce the oxygen. So it's just like normal breathing. You don't even notice it any difference.
And Steve, you were mentioning if you go higher than that, a mask pops out of the ceiling.
If there's a problem with the pressurization, anything, our airplane's designed for the mast to pop out at 12,500. That's set in there, and I've had that happen to me before. The mast will actually drop down at 12,500, and everybody in the back. And when it happened, everybody in the back, I looked around and they all giving me that big eye look like, what's going on? So it was actually just an accident, a fluke in the system.
Right.
But 12,500 is where the problem begins with oxygen
Wow.
deprivation. So.
And what we may do, we'll be coming up on a break very shortly, but after the break, we may ask you a little bit about what happens if for some reason that system does fail and you don't come back down to a safer altitude. And we'll also ask you some questions along the lines of what's some of your best times that you had by flying and what's your most tense time that you've had. So we got several more questions. Now, also, this will be an opportunity for people to call in and ask questions to Steve. But we're also taking the automotive questions, so don't hesitate to call with those too, and Steve will help us answer the automotive questions.
Oh, yeah. I'm an expert.
Okay, we'll be right back after this.